Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. I hope the week's gone well. It's very, very hot in Nairobi and we're in the middle of a drought. There's no rain. And it's going to have a huge impact on the economy, I'm afraid. Sub-Saharan Africa, when women win, Africa wins. Truth be told, women run Africa. Adesina, African Development Bank. 25th of March, I said, if you want to measure a soft power leapfrog, keep an eye on the Kiwis and this remarkably sophisticated epitome of 21st century girl power, Jacinda Ardern. Sudan, the ousted president, has been transferred to prison amid calls he faces charges for atrocities. This is Channel 4 News, worth watching in full. You can't make it up. It is Shakespearean. For 30 years he bundled people into this prison, and today he's a guest of it. Singing an old Sudanese revolutionary song, we sing in our prison, as does Bashir. As you tremble in your castle, he is no longer trembling in his castle. Awad bin Auf was leader of Sudan for just over a day. Mr. Burhan has so far made a better fist of the job. His speech on April 13 was less tone-deaf than that of his predecessor. He commended the revolution, particularly noting the prominent role played by women in the protests that began in December. In response to rising food prices, he paid tribute to the civilians who have been killed by security forces in the past 4 months. More concretely, he promised to hand over power to civilians after a transition period of no more than 2 years. We can't live on promises, says Hamid Murtada, an activist. The SPA has called for the sit-in outside the Defense Ministry to continue until the deep state is fully dismantled. Many people are particularly worried by the appointment of Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemeti, as the military council's deputy leader. A paramilitary unit who was in charge of the Rapid Support Forces had links to the notorious Janjaweed militia. Whether the junta will actually relinquish power remains to be seen. It's very possible the military said all that just to end the sit-in. Then, indeed, on the morning of April 15, the military tried to disband the protests, this time asking demonstrators to help clear roadblocks. After a brief standoff, the soldiers retreated. Clean up the regime and we'll clean up the square, shouted protesters as they departed. The generals had better put their aprons on. As we've said before, the reason they want to clear it is because if the crowd disperses, goes home, does not reassemble, we say the revolution is over. Citizens at the sit-in are asked what their demands are: the transfer of power to civilian governments. The sit-in looks like a portal into tomorrow's Sudan. It's wonderful. There's music, there are women. It's just incredible. What about the crowd? The future belongs to crowds, you wrote in Mao too. And as I've said, the revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form in the street. That's why they're not coming off it. Lauren Anne Lumumba, the president of Congo Brazzaville's granddaughter, bought a $7 million Trump apartment in cash. She is the granddaughter of the Republic of Congo's president. Mariana Abro from the corruption watchdog Global Witness said its investigation offered further evidence that some of the world's most notorious politicians and business people choose to stash their cash in Trump property. Called the Trump Organization to explain why it allowed the apartment's purchase to go ahead despite the apparent risks of money laundering and corruption associated with it. The Trump Organization said that the property at the Manhattan building at 1 Central Park West was bought from another owner, and there was no suggestion that Mr. Trump or his company had broken any law. The investigation by Global Witness alleges that a company in Cyprus belonging to Ms. Sassou Nguesso, who was recently targeted in a sex tape blackmailing scandal, according to media reports from our country, funded the purchase of the apartment in 2014. This is a photograph of President Sassou Nguesso, and his family is being investigated in Paris. And now watch this video, it's brilliant. This is the president arriving for a national event. See what power does to African despots. It's like some ninja thing. I wrote in August 2017, any financial expert will tell you that President Trump's financial affairs are a smoking gun. All those sales where Trump proclaimed himself a genius because they were so off-market we would all be incredulous were essentially just that, incredible. South African all shares up 11.7% this year. Dollar rand, I haven't been able to check the price, but I can guarantee you we're going higher in terms of dollar rand. Moody's Investors Services have upgraded Egypt credit rating from B3 to B2. Follows reforms and improving debt metrics. As I wrote in February, they devalued their currency a long time ago, took a brutal punch in the solar plexus, but now they're reaping the reward and dividend from a bolder economic policy. However, Egypt's election commission said on Wednesday that a referendum potentially allowing President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to stay in office until 2030 will take place on April 20 to 22nd, President for Life Sisi. Egyptian EGX30 is up 14.02%. 6 Nigerians fall into extreme poverty every minute. Nigerian all shares down 4.64%. Ghana's economy slowed less than expected in Q4 2018 as strong services growth helped offset a weaker contribution from the industrial sector. Ghana is expected to be the fastest growing country in the world this year. Ghana's stock exchange down 3.93% year to date. Tanzania's government has blocked the IMF fund from reporting its publication. On March 18, 2019, the executive board of the IMF concluded the consideration of the 2019 Article 4 consultation with the United Republic of Tanzania, the IMF said in an email statement on Wednesday. The authorities have not consented to publication of the staff report or the related press release. Not a good sign.